Hello, this is Willie from the Ozarks. We're atop Monk Cahokia Mounds on Monk Mound at sunrise, August the 2nd, 2022. A Course in Miracles workbook for students from the original edition, Lesson 214, which is a review of Lesson 194. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I place the future in the hands of God. I place the future in the loving hands of God is what I always think of. I place the future in the hands of God. I place the future in the loving hands of God. The past is gone, the future is not yet. Now am I freed from both. For what God gives can only be for good, and I accept but what He gives as what belongs to me. I place the future in the hands of God. I place the future in the loving hands of God. The past is gone. The future is not yet. Now, underline that, now am I freed from both, the future and the past. Future dread and past guilt. We're freed from all that if we stay in the present now. And now am I freed from both. For what God gives can only be for good, and I accept but what He gives as what belongs to me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Isn't that beautiful? So let's stay in the present moment. Let's trust that that God always will give us what we need. If we need a thought, He'll give it to us. If we need circumstances to align to the holy child of God's footsteps, such will happen. Everything is perfect. We've been given everything in the now, in the present. I place the future in the loving hands of God. All right, let's go take a look in our text reading, and we're ready for, let's start in paragraph 21 of chapter 24, Specialness and Separation, section 3, which is the treachery of specialness. It looks like that sun's just about ready to come up, isn't it? Up here on top of the mounds at sunrise. You know, they built these mounds, as they understand, with basketfuls of dirt. And they carried them up here, you know, basket at a time. Lots of people. This was one of the most populated areas in, maybe the most populated area in North America when Columbus got here. But it had before he got here, it was a very populated place. For some reason, it had fallen into ruins and no one was living here, or very few. It wasn't a thriving metropolis on the banks of the Mississippi River any longer. Something had happened and it had fallen into disarray. Anyway, there's lots of theories on how what happened. But anyway, let's take a look in our text reading. Like I said, we're ready for paragraph 21. Before we pick up reading here, let me tell you about another bean out of Baker's Creek heirloom seeds, and it's the Roma 2. It's a 55-day bush bean. This is an improved Romano bush type green bean that produces loads of 6 to 7 inch wide pods that are very flavorful. You know, we're talking a lot about beans, corn, and squash, the three sisters of the Iroquois. So you kind of get some ideas of which kind you want to plant. Whether you want to plant bush beans or whether you want to plant pole beans and what varieties. Anyway, there's another one. There's the Romano 2. Roma 2. An improved Romano bush type green bean. Okay, let's pick up in our reading now. And let's be sure as we do it that we keep ever present in our mind that I am not a body, I am free. You're not a body, you're not bound to the body, you're free from that. Boy, feel that freedom that comes from knowing that you're created in the image of God. You are as God created you. And that today we're thinking specifically about, I trust my future to the loving hands of God. How's it actually said? I place the future in the hands of God. I place the future in the loving hands of God. Okay, paragraph 21. You know what? There was a lot in yesterday's. Let's back up even a little further. Paragraph 18. We have got a little extra time today, so let's go ahead and do that. You who have chained your Savior to your specialness and given it his place, remember this. He has not lost the power to forgive you all the sins you think you placed between him and the function, salvation. Let's back up. He has not lost the power to forgive you all the sins you think you placed between him and the function of salvation given him for you. Nor will you change his function any more than you can change the truth in him and in yourself. But be you certain that the truth is just the same in both. It gives no different messages and has one meaning, and it is one you both can understand, and one which brings release to both of you. And it is one you both can understand, and one which brings release to both of you. Here stands your brother, and the key to heaven in his hand, held out to you. Let not the dream of specialness remain between you. What is one is joined in truth. What is one is joined in truth. Think of the loveliness that you will see within yourself when you have looked on him as on a friend. He is the enemy of specialness, but only friend to what is real in you. You want friends that are friends to what is real in you, don't you? Not one attack you thought you made on him has taken from him the gift that God would have him give to you. His need to give it is as great as yours to have it. Let him forgive you all your specialness and make you whole in mind and one with him. He waits for your forgiveness only that he may return it unto you. It is not God who has condemned his Son, but only you, to save his specialness and kill his self. Remember, we don't want to make comparisons and think that some are better and worse. We want to let all comparisons go. And another idea that we want to keep in mind here is that it's your job to see your brother as forgiving. Because in truth, that's what he is doing, even if he doesn't realize he's doing it. There is a place in consciousness that he is completely unified, yoked, as we say it in yoga, unified with you. You have come far along the way of truth, too far to falter now. Just one step more and every vestige of the fear of God will melt away in love. Your brother's specialness and yours are enemies, and bound in hate to kill each other and deny they are the same. Yet it is not illusions which have reached this final obstacle that seems to make God and his heaven so remote that they cannot be reached. Here in this holy place does truth stand waiting to receive you both in silent blessing and in peace so real and so encompassing that nothing stands outside. Leave all illusions of yourself outside this place, to which you come in hope and honesty. Here is your Savior from specialness. Here is your Savior from specialness. Hey, it looks like the sun's popping up there, isn't it? Here is your Savior from your specialness. He is in need of your acceptance of himself as part of you. He is in need of your acceptance of himself as part of you. as you for his. You are alike to God as God is to himself. He is not special, for he would not keep one part of what he is unto himself, not given to his Son, but kept for him alone. And it is this you fear. For if he is not special, then he willed his Son to be like him, and your brother is like you, not special, but possessed of everything, including you. Okay, now we're in paragraph 23. This is where we left off yesterday. Give him but what he has remembered. Give him but what he has, remembering God gave himself to both of you in equal love, that both might share the universe with him. Give him but what he has, remembering God gave himself to both of you in equal love, that both might share the universe with him, who chose that love could never be divided, and kept separate from what it is and must forever be. We want to keep that in mind, that love can't ever be divided. Give him but what he has, remembering God gave himself to both of you in equal love, that both might share the universe with him who chose that love could never be divided and kept separate from what it is and must forever be. You are your brothers. Part of love was not denied to him, but can it be that you have lost because he is complete? What has been given him makes you complete, as it does him. God's love gave you to him, and him to you, because he gave himself. What is the same as God is one with him, and only specialness could make the truth of God and you as one seem anything but heaven, and the hope of peace at last in sight. Just thought I can see the sun come up in the camera, but I can't get those same sunbeams in my eyes that I can when I look directly into it as it comes up. They say the first 30 minutes of the morning and the last 30 minutes of the day you can look directly into the sun, and it's actually got some healing benefits according to a lot of people. So they call it sun gazing. Don't do that. I would do a little research on that, just how good it is for the eyes, but I've sure heard a lot of really wise people say it's good. I've done it. I do it a lot, actually. but probably not first 30 minutes. That seems too much. First 5 or 10 minutes when it's first coming up. And only specialness could make the truth of God in you as one seem anything but heaven, and the hope of peace at last in sight. And only specialness could make the truth of God in you as one seem anything but heaven, and the hope of peace at last in sight. 23. Specialness is the seal of treachery upon the gift of God. Whatever serves its purpose must be given to kill. No gift that bears its seal but offers treachery to giver and receiver. Not one glance from eyes it veils, but looks on sight of death. Not one believer in its potency, but seeks for bargains and for compromise that would establish sin, love's substitute, and serve it faithfully. Not one believer in its potency, but seeks for bargains and for compromise that would establish sin, love's substitute, and serve it faithfully. And no relationship that holds its purpose dear but clings to murder as safety's weapon and the great defender of all illusions from the threat of love. Paragraph 24. The hope of specialness makes it seem possible God made the body as the prison house which keeps his Son from him. The hope of specialness makes it seem possible God made the body as the prison house which keeps his Son from him. for it demands a special place God cannot enter, and a hiding place where none is welcome but your tiny self. Nothing is sacred here but unto you and you alone, apart and separate from all your brothers, safe from all intrusions of sanity upon illusions, safe from God, and safe for conflict everlasting. Here are the gates of hell you closed upon yourself, to rule in madness and in loneliness, your special kingdom, apart from God, away from truth, and from salvation. In the last paragraph of this section, 25, the key you threw away, God gave your brother. Now that's a nice thought. The key you threw away, when you started judging and not seeing love in everyone and everything, and seeing that everyone is your part of you, they're actually your Savior. When you threw that away, look what you did. He says, the key you threw away, God gave your brother, whose holy hands would offer it to you when you are ready to accept his plan for your salvation in place of yours. So when you're ready to accept God's plan, which is to love your neighbor as yourself, really, it's what we learned 2,000 years ago and from Jesus just coming and recorded in the Bible. Love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And James even went on to say, how can you say you love God whom you cannot see if you don't love your brother whom you have seen? Because he knew we were all connected. The key you threw away, God gave your brother, whose holy hands would offer it to you when you were ready to accept his plan for your salvation in place of yours. How could this readiness be reached save through the sight of all your misery and the awareness that your plan has failed and will forever fail to bring you peace and joy of any kind? Through this despair you travel now. Through this despair you travel now, yet it is but illusion of despair. The death of specialness is not your death, but your awakening into life eternal. The death of specialness is not your death, but your awakening into life eternal. You but emerge from an illusion of what you are to the acceptance of yourself as God created you. There may be some things there that you're going to have to read a few times to really let it come into focus. But let me just encourage you, which is obvious here, we don't want to make comparisons and thinking some people are better and some people are worse. We need to avoid some and draw close to others. That whole idea is what has been, that was the throwing away of the key to freedom and peace and love and salvation and happiness, holiness. Now we want to accept it as brings us back to our idea today. I place my future in the loving hands of God. We're just going to trust that love is what's real, and that we can trust that love, and we can see it in our brothers and our sisters, and that we don't have to think of some as more valuable than others. We're all in this together, all holy children of God, all united in that love. Okay. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I place the future in the loving hands of God. I place the future in the loving hands of God. The past is gone, the future is not yet. Now am I freed from both. Now, I underlined that word now. He wants us to see that in the now, we're freed from the past. The past is gone, it can touch you not. And the future has no meaning other than the holy present, eternal future, the eternal present, which extends into what would become the future. But why worry about that? Just place your trust in the loving hands of God. Let Him care for you. He'll let things happen as they need to. The past is gone, the future is not yet. Now am I freed from both. For what God gives can only be for good, and I accept but what He gives as what belongs to me. And I accept what He gives as what belongs to me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Thank you all so much for joining me up atop Monk Mound. Jessica and I just wanted to see the sunrise from up here, so we made it up here this morning. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I place the future in the hands of God. For the literalists here, I place the future in the hands of God. Rather than my adapted version, I place the future. I place my future in the loving hands of God. Yeah, make it personal. The past is gone, the future is not yet. Now am I freed from both. For what God gives can only be for good. For what God gives can only be for good. And I accept but what He gives as what belongs to me. And I accept but what He gives as what belongs to me. I place the future in the hands of God. I place my future in the loving hands of God. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me.